Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome to another Conversations in Consciousness with Lisa and Keith. I am Lisa Warner.
I'm Keith Leon S. Thanks for joining us. Oh boy.
And today we are here to talk about life with the four agreements.
Mm.
Do you know the four agreements? It's a book written by Don Miguel Ruiz, but it's far more than just a book. Keith, what do you think? Four agreements.
I think it's the perfect topic because I've had to work with them even today. Finding, like my wife and I share a small space, right? We full-time RV for a while now, and most of the time it works out. It's like, what do you do when one of the people is having a dark day or not in a great place, uh, and you're going to do a great show like this, and you're going to be in the same energy. Matter of fact, the same room, right, with another energy that is not as quite as upbeat as you. So this morning, that's what I was wanting to support my mate wherever she is, and still feeling the energy of the dark space, that dark energy, like feeling it, uh, when knowing that I have a show like this coming up. So it was interesting because I was consciously sitting and saying, okay, four agreements, go to the four agreements, right? Because I like to pick a tool and go to it. So it was like, what are the four agreements? And all I could come up with was two of them.
Ah,
I couldn't even remember the other two. And how many times have we said them, Lisa?
a lot.
Shared this with people a lot. And all I could get was always do your best and don't take anything personally. And I was like, well, if that's all I could remember, I know I'm always doing my best. So ding, 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 don't take anything personally was what was jumping out. And it's like, well, then that's the one that needs to be worked on. Clearly, if I can't even remember the other ones. And so I worked with that for a while. And then when Mara came out of her headset because she was listening to something, she was like, "What's going on?" And then I said, "What are the other two agreements?" I got this one and I got this one. And then she reminded me, and I was like, "Oh yes, 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 okay." And but it was enlightening to me because the two that I wasn't remembering are the two that I feel like I'm really the best with, right? And then the one that was ding, 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 ding was the one that was present in that moment, right? So I guess let's just start with that one. It doesn't matter what order we go in.
Yeah. So
One of the
let's name the four agreements for anybody who's not familiar with them.
Yeah, so we've got be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions, and always do your best. And so first one I wanted to talk about was don't take anything personally. And this is a running thing in uh, in my relationship with my wife because I had experiences with very strong, powerful women my whole life that had constantly were telling me what was wrong with me. And especially in my first marriage for 13 and a half years, there was basically seven things that were wrong with me. I finally, after years, pinpointed that there was just the same seven and they were just constantly revolving. And then I was trying to change that one thing about myself, and then I would get to where it was like, oh, good job, you changed that thing, and then would shift to another one. So there was always something wrong with me. And so it just, even though that relationship ended and there was time in between, healing time where I meditated and did all the work I needed to do, took personal responsibility for everything that didn't work and all that, and used the law of attraction to attract my perfect mate, and all that did not mean that that trigger didn't come with me into, into the next iteration, if you will. So don't take anything personally is a kind of a running joke because anytime that I am taking something personally, Mara will say, "I'm not a witch. I'm your wife." And that's a reference from the Princess Bride
Uh,
when right where Carol Kane says that to Billy Crystal, a cute little couple of spellcasters and witches and warlocks, I guess they are, and she says, "I'm a witch in real life," and uh, and that's just a reminder, you know, I'm not her, and I'm not. It just everything like it reminds me that she's never doing anything to purposely hurt me. Never. It's just like not even a thing. No matter how how bad it gets, she would never, ever, ever do anything to personally hurt me. So it's like if I am triggered, if I'm mad, if I'm upset, if I'm frustrated, if I'm any of that, then I'm obviously taking something personally. it's just it's just a thing. So so that is one of the tools that we have is she'll say, "I'm not a witch, I'm your wife," and it just brings me right back. And then I giggle and we're back. So it's like but that's not what was happening today. No, yeah. So don't take anything personally. What it says, like I have a thing with the four agreements, and there's like a paragraph for each of them, and I love this. It says, "Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream. When you um, immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering." Ooh.
right?
Mm.
Yes. We see a lot of needless suffering going on in the world.
Hmm.
It's, we see it demonstrated all the time. People taking things personally. They did that to me. You did that. It's like, and what I love about the communities that we interact with, like these are the codes of conduct, like the four agreements. And when we when we implement these and we follow these, life is simple. Like there's no judgment, no criticism, no finger pointing, no blaming, no shaming. It's just beautiful. Hey,
Hmm.
we realize that we are all created from love. Love is who and what we are at our core. And when when we're being shamed and blamed by our parents and the people who are supposed to be loving us when we're little kids, and we're being scolded and it's like what.
Yeah.
Start to lose confidence in love itself because we're not seeing that demonstrated on a daily basis always.
Mm. That's true. Yeah, I think the meanest family member I had to me was my grandfather. When it was weird because my grandmother was the opposite. She was like she knew I was living with my mom, who was like manic depressive, barely even got out of the bed, super depressed, and my sister was a mess, and she's like, oh, you know, they're around that all the time. So it was like anything she could do to make me feel good, to make me feel loved, to make me not feel like a poor child, like buy me things, like whatever she could do to she would like overcompensate to in a beautiful way to give us so much love to hopefully, I think she thought, counteract the other. But what she didn't know was grandpa was right there in the same room behind the scenes saying, you know, a bunch of hateful, horrible stuff to me. I mean, just so mean things you don't say to a kid ever. Yeah. So it was traumatizing. And so I did a lot of work as an adult to, you know, first forgive him and then forgive myself for judging him, and then forgive myself for all the things that I I kind of did the same thing to myself that he did, right?
Mm,
When I moved away from him, I still had him with me and was still saying the same things to me, right? So when I did that forgiveness work, ultimately I was the one that needed to process. I knew was the one that needed to forgive and be forgiven for all of it, because the stuff he was doing was like ended when I was a kid. So it's like any anything after that was just me me recreating it. So yeah, so I didn't want to take anything that he said personally when he wasn't even there for 30 years.
right.
How could I still be taking things he said personally? Like, it just didn't make any sense. So once I got clear of that, then it was a lot easier to do the work that I needed to let that go. Right now, it's a great talking point, and I wrote it. I think I wrote about it in my book. But it's like when I'm talking about it, I'm not feeling right. I'm not feeling any of the stuff as I share it with you, because it's literally like a story now. Yay!
Right.
I don't have to take that stuff personally anymore.
you, and also, from my perspective, I look at things in terms of energy,
Hmm.
and energy is just energy. Fear is an energy, guilt is an energy, shame is an energy, joy, happiness, all of these are frequencies that are energies that we use to create. Like, we are creator beings, and energy is just energy. It's not personal until we make it personal. So, like, the energy of fear or doubt or guilt, it's just a frequency. But as soon as we say that it's mine, I am that, or you are that,
Hmm.
then we're making it personal.
Yeah.
And, if we're in an energy that we don't enjoy, some negative low frequency energy, we want to clear that out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really easy to clear out energy unless we've made it personal. You know, I'm a terrible person. It's really hard to get rid of that. Like, as soon as we make it about ourselves, or you did this thing to me, we're making it personal, and it's very, very sticky and gooey and very, very difficult to get rid of. But as
Yeah.
soon as we see that, oh, there's an energy here that doesn't belong here, because we're love, that is who and what we are. And as soon as some low vibe frequency comes in, it doesn't belong to any of us. These low vibe frequencies need to be cleared out. They are the wobbles that have been created in this reality, these distortions. And as soon as we can realize that these are energies, and we have full command over all energies, but we have to be in that place of neutrality without taking the energies personally.
I'm holding on to them. Like, I like to look like in the quantum field, energies are pass through. Right? Energy just has the ability to just pass on through. So any energy anybody threw at us, we just went like, ah, it would have passed on through. It's when we choose to hold on to the energy and then store the energy.
Exactly.
Stored energy is what we call sick, right? Or dis-ease. Any of that for me, that it's like feels like stored negative energy of some sort, and then depending on what energy it is, it shows up as different things. And I think that's been your experience, right? Because I remember when you were, you know, not feeling so great, the questions you asked yourself helped you realize the place that you were out of balance, the places where you're stressed, the places where you had dark energy that was stuck that you're holding on to, right? And you getting clear on what those were and doing the tools that you did then released that energy no longer in your body. So therefore, no more disease, right? On a
Mm.
quantum field, it just seems so simple,
Yeah.
right? Because energy, any energy has the ability to just pass through unless I grab it, hold on to it, and oh, even worse, store it. Yeah.
Exactly. What we embody, we experience. So it's life is meant to be simple. Like it's not meant to be so complicated and harsh and such a struggle. It's just because we have fallen out of the frequency of love. We have forgotten that we are grand creator beings
Mm,
made of love. So, living by the four agreements really helps us to come back into alignment with that, the truth of who we are.
mm, mhm. And when we remember that, we probably won't take anything personally.
Right?
Just be like, oh, they must really be having a bad day, or whew, what must they have gone through in their life to be that venomous?
Right?
Oh, let's just send them love right now. Right?
Exactly.
Just so many responses. Uh, I remember teaching Mara, like one time her parent was saying a bunch of just kind of mean things. And she was like, oh, and I said, he's just loving you right now. She's like, what? I said, he's loving you the best way he knows how right now. Listen to what's underneath what he's saying. And then she did that. She was like, oh my God. By the time she hung up, I see it. I see it. I see it. And it was easier for her to be on the phone with him after that because she realized he was just loving her. And it didn't sound like it, but
Hmm.
it was true. Yeah. So that's a good one. Don't take anything personally. It's always someone else's stuff, someone else's story. They're projecting it on us. And again, we can just go, wow. Oh, honey. That's what Marth says. Oh, honey, that I just love and I do in my head sometimes when people are just like, just like, oh, honey, in my head. Some tools are just two words. Oh, honey, and then that just brings me back to wow, wow. I just need to just listen with love and not take any of this personally. Like that's the best thing I can do right now.
And that goes hand in hand with the never make assumptions. It's like when we just simply assume people are saying something, just like that example, like, oh, I did the same thing with my mom. She was always judging me and criticizing me and telling me I was wrong. But that was her way of loving me. Like she didn't know anything else. She wanted me to be perfect. She wanted me to be the best version of me. And, I kept falling short of the best version of me, apparently, in her eyes. But that was her trying to love me.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, well, in Four Agreements, it says, don't make assumptions. Find the courage to ask questions and to express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstandings. Ooh, that's good. With just this one agreement, you can completely transform your life.
Right?
I love that. It's so true. Is it?
Exactly.
And it kind of that one kind of reminds me of the work of Byron Katie because it's like anything someone says to you, you say, someone said this to me, and she'll just say, is that true? You know, can you absolutely know that that's true? That thing you're thinking about yourself or that thing that they said. And so don't make assumptions. Is that true? Those two running hand in hand with me. Um, and yeah, it's like anytime that I am not clear, this is what they're asking for because they were so clear that I just know. Uh, it's so beneficial for me to say, I'm not sure I'm clear. Right? What can you put it another way so that I get it? I'm a little slow today, or whatever, depending on who I'm with, right? I might make it funny so that they don't take it personal, right? But but the clearer I am, then the better I can serve whatever they're asking me to do, right? If I get a muddy question and I just take it, I'm gonna give a muddy product or a muddy answer, and because it's just a mirror, right? So don't make assumptions. It's a good one.
Exactly. And we've never really been taught to question any, to ask questions. For school, you're not supposed to question the teacher. You can't ask a question. Like, and if you ask a question, then you're at risk of, oh, you're so stupid. You don't know it. Like all of this feedback from class,
Or square,
right?
teacher's pet. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're not really taught how to ask effective questions. And,
Mhm.
if we're not asking questions, then we do have to make assumptions. Like,
Mhm.
you know, how
That's
many
true.
times in school did this teacher ask some completely irrelevant question and you had no idea what it meant and you couldn't question it and you just had to provide an answer, so you had to assume what they were asking and then you would get in trouble for the wrong answer. Like, what?
Yeah. Wow. I just till you said that I hadn't really thought about like I I see in my mind all the time kids with their hands up or they're saying any questions. But like you said, if it's not what they deem as an intelligent question, one of the probably the only three they expect to come at them, right? One, two, or three. Uh, then yeah, either they're gonna criticize you or the kids surely are, because I mean apparently that's their job, right? Other kids to torture you and tease you, at least at my school. I don't miss that at all. I gotta tell you.
Boy, I hated school.
Me too. Me too. I am not someone who wants to be controlled, so that was a problem. Day one.
It was really, really clear before day one that that was where we went to get programmed. And I was not up for the task. I mean, I did it, and I did well at it, but it definitely just started destroying my soul from
Yeah.
day one.
Yeah.
I started to lose all of my joy of living. I
Mhm.
knew that I was supposed to be out in nature, learning from nature and that I
Mm.
could literally learn everything I needed to learn out in
Mm.
nature.
Mm.
But that wasn't what was going to happen. So
Not what's happening.
just it started to destroy my soul until finally it destroyed my body. It destroyed just was destroying my mind, my body, my soul, and I had to put a stop to it at some point and start reclaiming the truth of who I was.
Mm. Yeah, it's amazing that we still have the same system that was borrowed from another country who created that system to train soldiers and industrial workers. And that was it. Train soldiers, industrial workers. And there's not really industrial workers anymore. And yeah, and soldiers of what? Right. So it's
Still
like
hanging around.
why we're still using that system that's so militant and so lacking of freedom of any expression whatsoever. Um,
Exactly. You can't control free thinkers. You can't control beings of love and light who are grand creators. So you have to make sure that they have no awareness of their power and the
right.
beauty and joy that they actually have the ability to create.
Yeah. Well, in my day, we were called daydreamers and not able to focus, and a bunch of other diagnoses from our teachers.
Mhm.
And then by the time my child was in school, then they were labeling it ADD, then there was ADHD, and then there's, and it's like, no, it's called bored
Mhm.
because my child is already smarter than the teacher that's standing in front of him. And so it's hard for him to focus because there's no new information coming, nothing to challenge him, nothing that supports freedom of expression or uh, any of the beautiful talents that he has. Can you imagine how bad it was when they literally called me to the office and suggested that I got him on medication? Can you imagine how that went for them? or
Yeah.
when or when teachers called me in to tell me that my son was failing their class, how that went. Who's failing who? Right? His grade is a reflection of your teaching. Wow, they were just like triggered.
Right. Why are we learning all this irrelevant information?
Yeah,
Information is not education. The
right.
ability to live life and create and
Yeah.
be happy and live in harmony with all of creation. That's where it's at. Like,
The question I got in trouble for asking the most was, where in the real world is any of this going to do me any good?
right.
How does this apply in the real world? What you're teaching me right now, right? This history, like, first of all, don't care. Right? Second of all, how is that gonna serve me in any way moving forward to learn this stuff? Numbers, 1612, blah blah happened. Did it? Did it though? Right? Because it seemed to me like even the things that they were teaching had an agenda and wasn't a form of brainwashing. And I guess that's maybe where we're a little different. Or how many of you that are listening to this are like us, were like us growing up? Did you just take everything like it's in a book and they told me it's true, it must be true? My life probably would have been so much easier if that's how I was. But it wasn't. Like I was like question everything because nothing felt true that
Mhm.
was being taught to me in school, other than like art, drama, PE. When I started playing tennis, I was like, this is something that could serve me, right? And because I was really good at it, this might end up serving me in the real life. There was so few things that it was like I was even willing to take tennis at that point. Right? But assuming that everything that we're taught is true can also get us in trouble.
A lot of trouble. Exactly.
So find the courage to ask questions and express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstandings. We weren't allowed to do that, right? In school. No. Just got sent to the office for doing that.
Yeah.
So now we're not there anymore. Thank God we are in the real world. So why not take that into the real world and don't make
So
assumptions.
what is the real world?
The one that
I
we could
say that
create.
we live in a false matrix society that is completely artificially generated. And I say
Yeah.
the real world is the earth and all life upon earth.
Mm,
That that's what's actually real.
mm,
That the artificial society isn't real at all.
mm. Yeah. True. True. Should we move on to be impeccable with your word?
Mhm.
There's one that I um, feel that a lot of folks could work on that, right? And it really came clear to me in like when we started our company and then in the workplace, working with authors, working with business people, doctors, like these people that had way more initials after their name than I did, would just say this and not do it, not show up on time, not return something on time. People I was mentoring and coaching or business advising, by next week you will do this. Nah, I didn't do that because what? What'd you make more important than your agreement? Wow, that's harsh. Is it though? Because from I don't know why I don't know when I got that. Uh, I think it was when I really got clear on it. I think it was like when I first met Mara and we did the Insight seminar series. I think there was a piece on that that I just went, oh, oh. But one thing that I learned was really valuable was being in a band with someone who always late, like just rarely ever kept their word. And and what I learned from somebody because I was talking to them about it, somebody said, "Well, it's like the subconscious mind runs the show," and I said, "Agreed." And they said, "So if you say things and don't do them long enough, then even when you say, I will do this, and you mean it, and you really want to keep that agreement, your subconscious mind will go, yeah, right, sure. And will like make you forget, make you screw that up. So you only get so many not being impeccable with your words to where you don't even believe yourself. And I was like, that makes so much sense to me, you know. And then the piece that they did in that workshop, I was just like, wow, I could see all the time where even I was saying it was important for me to be impeccable, but I was seeing times where I was dropping ball once in a while, and why that was, right. And then it just then I kind of went the other way, and I became like super rigid with it, super rigid. And I was absolutely anything I said, like I would do that, but and then I expected everybody else to be the same. How'd that work out for me?
Right.
so so it says here, be impeccable with your word, speak with integrity, say only what you mean, avoid using the word to speak again your to speak against yourself. My little mouse hand was on the ST to speak again yourself. Okay. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip about others. Ooh. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. So, what I loved about the four agreements was to me, be impeccable with your word. Like, all that meant to me was like, if you say it, do it. Right. Period. And if you don't, you broke a promise to me. Now I'm going to take that personally, right? And I'm going to not work with you anymore, or I'm going to fire you, or right. So that's what I mean. I was like super rigid, but in reading the four agreements, it was like, oh my God, it's speak with integrity, even about the way I speak about myself. That's being impeccable with your word. Wow. Woo, right? So that if I say blah 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 about myself, right? You're so wait a minute. That's not being impeccable with my word, right? So what's the truth? Oh, the truth is, fourth agreement, I'm doing the best that I can, but I'm always doing that only all the time. So avoid words to speak against myself or gossip about others too. That's another cut, another level that isn't what be impeccable with your word meant to me, right? It was just like, be your word, right? But there's so many other levels to this beautiful agreement.
Yeah, I think this agreement is really I don't know if it's the most abused or not, but when we look at politicians,
Hmm.
how many
Hello.
of them have ever been really impeccable with their word? Oh, elect me because I'm gonna make things phenomenal. Like, right,
Are you though?
right. So
And would you even be allowed to if you wanted to?
exactly. So we see the opposite being demonstrated loud and clear all the time. And that's the message that gets broadcast probably the loudest out of all of these. That distortion of be impeccable with your word. We get the impression that your word really doesn't matter. It doesn't Nobody is impeccable with their word. Nobody follows through with what they do.
Mm,
So, I don't need to do that either. And, and then the whole society just degrades
mm,
because nobody believes anybody else because
mhm,
most people are so not impeccable with their word that it turns out to be just lies and untruths. And so now we have an entire society that is built on this really, really shaky ground.
yeah.
So by those of us who are really working at building a beautiful future, these agreements are so incredibly important. And when we start to actually implement them and we
Mm,
see the results of implementing them in the communities that we participate in, there's no trauma and drama, there's no finger pointing, there's no
mhm,
shaming and blaming, and there's just love and support.
mhm,
And this is so needed in society, to be able to be impeccable with our word, to be able to not make assumptions, to be
mhm,
able to treat each other with dignity and honor and respect.
mhm.
I love this conversation topic.
And because so few people are being impeccable with their word, when you are, it stands out.
Mhm.
Like it really stands out. I Time is another another thing, right? So
Mm,
I'd have business calls all day long, right, for the publishing business, and I would call businessmen, and we had a call at 11. I would sit there with the phone in my hand. Second it turned 11, I would hit call, and I can't tell you like how many times it was like, and we're off to a good start already. The person on the other end would say, and there I go, and you like you an on time person? God, yes. Early's actually on time. I said, you. I was standing here with the phone in my hand for 10 minutes, waiting to call you, and they're just like, yes, we're gonna get along great. So it's like it really stands out. Uh, Time wise, like what I started a production company with my friend Rudy, and we started out in his home. That's where we would edit and meet. And let's say we were meeting at 10. I would walk up to the door and go to knock, and he would open the door. And he'd say, like, literally, I could set my watch by you. It's just crazy. And it was just, he'd open the door right when, because he knew I was standing there waiting. I didn't want to come at 9:59. I didn't want to do 10:01. Right. I was going to be there at 10. So once he got his watch synchronized with mine, he literally could open the door and I'd be standing there. And I just thought that was the funniest thing. I could set my watch by you. It's like, oh, I'll never forget this moment. That is so funny. But that's like how important it became to me, uh, which is great for me. It was me expecting everyone else to have the same level of impeccability was where I felt uh, let down, certainly. And I remember turned 18 and I was old enough to vote. My mom was like, "Yay, let's go vote," and I was like, "Why would I do that? She's like, what? I'm like, it doesn't matter if there's a D or an R next to their name or whatever. They're liars and they're not going to do anything. So why would I even waste my time in that system? What does my vote count for if none of them are going to do anything? They're all just lying. It's just like, well, that's a pretty dark, perspective. And I'm like, is it though? Right? Let's just look at the campaign promises of this one. Let's check in next time it's time to vote and see how they're doing with that. Right? She was like, wow. But it did make her notice, right? Start to notice. Wow, yeah, okay, well, on the chance that, and that's the thing, I feel like so many of your people are like, on the chance that they actually do keep two of their promises, it would be worth it. Or what I heard a lot was, you know, if you don't vote, you're part of the problem,
Oh goodness, right? Blame
right?
people for the politicians' mistakes, right?
Right.
It's,
If you don't vote, you're part of
um,
the problem. Am I though?
right? I don't think so. I
Right.
don't really, I do a really, really good job of governing myself. Like
Yes.
I can carry myself in any situation, with dignity and honor. And, I have a very good track record of governing myself. I don't need somebody else to govern me. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
this is when I grew up having somebody governing me all the time, things were not going all that well. Just in my own
Yeah.
household with
Right.
a mother governing me all the time.
Yeah.
It didn't do well for my soul to be governed. And now I realize, like, that's one of the reasons I've never played that game either. Is
Yeah.
I don't want to vote for somebody to govern me. I don't want somebody to govern me. I
Yeah.
want to live my life in peace and integrity and harmony with all life. I don't
And
need
the,
to
and
be
and
governed.
the difference was that never once did I tell anybody, you know, I can't believe you vote. you know,
Yeah,
you voter, like not once. I don't, it's like, but the other way, it just came at me so much. I was just like, this is so weird. Like, I don't understand. Why do you care? Right?
right.
Why do and you even think that the voting system is real? There's another problem.
Right? You think they're
No,
elected and not selected?
exactly.
Look
Like
again.
growing up, like I'm a basic math guy, so growing up I could see all the holes in the story. You know, like all the like wait, electoral college. Hang on a minute. Explain that to me. Or where like somebody won and then all of a sudden something came in and changed that in the 11th hour. And
Mhm.
it was like recently there was an election like that where it was like the votes that changed that election. It was tens of thousands, or if not hundreds of thousands of all one-way vote. And in my experience, there's no 10,000 people that are going to vote for the same thing ever any time at any point. So there's no way that only yes 10,000 votes or however many it was could come in. It would always be 7 and 3, 7,000 and 3,000, or there would be some kind of split. No, there's no there's no 10 people that are going to agree on one thing. Not even 10. You can just break it down to 10. This would be 7 and 3 or 5 and 5 and 9 and 1, but all 10? Nah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just interesting. So again, uh I feel like that piece that I heard about, if you don't be impeccable with your word and you do it enough times, then it's like your subconscious mind won't believe anything that you say. That was so powerful for me personally. I was just like, oh, okay, got it. All right, that was the switch went, and then that was it. Then it became a thing. Being impeccable with my word became important to me, and when it did, then I started being nicer to myself, for sure.
right? And once I started to really realize that we are all these grand beings of light. We are we are created in the image and likeness of God source creator, and which means that we are created from love. And when we start to treat ourselves as grand beings of light, and we start to recognize what has happened to us with our, the consciousness has fallen, everything has been so distorted that we've all had this state of amnesia, which I could see when I was 2 years old. I don't know why I got that gift, but I was able to see that. And once I realized that, wait a second, that, this isn't supposed to be like this at all. Once I started to realize, if I treat myself as a grand being of light, and I start treating other people as grand beings of light as well, and I start being impeccable with that word, which is through the lens of love, through the lens of we are grand beings of light, things change. This is why we have these wings in the background of our Zoom here, because we're here to remind each other who and what we truly are, and the powers that we have to create a beautiful planet and a spectacular future for ourselves. But we have to start to realize that, we can't continue down the path of destruction and have it work out well. So, in order to start, raising the game back up, we have to have some guidelines
Mm-hmm.
and some codes of conduct.
Mm-hmm.
And these four agreements are spectacular codes of conduct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the fourth one is always do your best. And that's where I feel like what you were just sharing leads to, like directly to. Um, your best is going to change from moment to moment. It will be different when you're tired as when you're well rested, right? Under any circumstance, simply do your best and you will avoid self judgment, self abuse, and regret. I love that. And in essence, we are always doing our best,
Mhm.
no matter what we're doing. And that's the one piece some people would be like, what are you talking about? So even when you're acting like a fool, right? Or snippy or whatever, in that moment you are doing your best. And should you catch it and go, oh, I don't want to be like that. Okay, and make a shift, fantastic. Then that's you doing your best in that moment because you realize that's a way that you'd rather be. But I think even when we're acting up, right? Right? Even I think my grandpa being hateful to me, I think that was the best he had. And if that was, what must he have gone through in his life to be so venomous to me? Like I had to be worse, right? Had to be worse for him. And so I have to have compassion for that, you know? Oh, honey, as my wife would say, right? Like, what would he have had to go through
Yeah.
to treat a child like that? Like, he's doing the best that he had. And I feel like if he had another way, he would have done another way. And he did, once in a while, like I said, poor kid, right? So once in a while, he'd give me a silver dollar or grandma would give me a silver dollar, but he'd want to best that and, give me a 10 or something, right? So it's like once in a while he'd have this moment where he would, like the inner child or the I want to do good, little boy would show up for a second and then it would just be like, okay, there is good in him, right? He's okay. All right, all right. If we kind of put up with this other guy 99% of the time, but when that 1% guy shows up, he's pretty sweet. Kind of adorable.
Like we are
Right.
all just amazing beings, but so many have been just traumatized. And
Hmm.
the heart has shut down, and we've totally forgotten the grand beings of light that we are.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Yes,
Love, love, and more love. That's what
yeah,
we're made of. The
exactly. We are not
more,
wounds, but
yeah.
we act from our wounds,
Hmm.
and we just keep wounding more and more people with our own wounds. So this is why doing the inner work is so important, and learning how to clear out those inner wounds, so that we don't continue to carry them. And these beautiful physical bodies, they tell us if we are still carrying these wounds. This, we're not being attacked by diseases. The body is getting tired of carrying the wound.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. I feel like any self judgment I have is someone else's judgment, right?
Right?
The
Exactly.
core essence of who I am would never say those things ever to myself. Would only be positive and loving and kind and supportive, right? You got this, Keith. You got this. You look great. You can't be anything other than you are right now, right? You're perfect just the way you are. Like that's the kind of things. And any other story than that, then my favorite is who that? Who's that? Have a negative thought. Who's that? Oh, and like pinpoint it back to the person that programmed that in. Anytime I have a negative thought, oh, who's that? Right? Those are my question. Who's that? Sometimes I can hear the voice, like literally hear the voice.
Mm,
Once I ask that, say the thing again, and I'm like, okay, that's you. Sometimes I have to work a little harder, but I know it's not me.
yeah,
So good question to ask. Who's that?
exactly. Who does that belong to? Certainly
Yeah.
not mine.
Who imprinted that?
Yeah. If we're
Who's
all created in the image and likeness of prime creator, then we're created in divine perfection. There's
Mhm,
nothing wrong with any of us,
mhm.
other than we've been traumatized into believing that there's something wrong with us.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
have a song about that.
Uh-huh.
The
Yep.
only thing wrong with you is you think you have something wrong with you.
Yep. Only thing wrong with you is you think something's wrong with you. Yep. Wrote that at a camp with it was a teen camp, and that was the running theme. It was just God, it was just what's wrong with me? Here's what's wrong with me. Here's what's wrong with me. Here's what's wrong with me. They were just sharing and sharing, and it was just all them sharing like how people told them things were wrong with them, or they literally thought things were wrong with them. A lot of that going on, and self judgment, and I was just like, oh man. So I just went and wrote that song, and then sang it, and then recorded it and put it up, and then uh, on YouTube, and then invited all the kids to subscribe, right? And just play anytime that they're just like, I love that song. And I was like, okay, well, then let me make a video and put it up. And it's like pictures of all of them at the camp, right? So it was a tool for them that any moment that they felt like there was something wrong with them, go watch that video. And
Ah, well, is that still on YouTube?
yeah, it sure is.
Awesome. So we will put the link to that video in the show notes for this. So if you want to go see Keith's video of
Yeah,
that song,
it's
which is
called You're
a really good
Perfect.
one.
You're perfect.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's an amazing song. So please, please click that link and go listen to Keith's You're Perfect, because we are all these grand beings of light. We are all created in divine perfection. There is nothing wrong with any of us at any time unless we believe that there is.
Mhm.
So it's our job to stop believing those lies. They're not true.
Nope.
Beautiful. So the four agreements: take nothing personally, Never make assumptions. Be impeccable with your word and always do your best. So if you use those as your codes of conduct, how you carry yourself in the world, you will help to make the world and your life much better.
Hmm. Yeah, grab that book.
And I'm Miguel Ruiz.
And remember that healing happens. Healing happens.
That's right. Make sure you go to the insideeffects.com and watch this beautiful documentary. It is now an award-winning documentary. Congratulations to Keith and Theo, the editor, for their
Yeah.
awards on this movie. And I'm sure there will be more because this is a really groundbreaking documentary.
Yeah.
Thank you for including me in that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for all of you for watching this, for joining us, and we will see you next time.
On Conversations and
Conversations in
Consciousness.
Consciousness.
Wouldn't be thank you.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thanks, everyone. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Till next time. Bye for now.